Hey friends, let me paint the picture. Imagine 10 rival chefs in one kitchen, each whipping up their own dish. Chaos? Sure. But you also get creativity, taste tests, and maybe a masterpiece. Now imagine the head chef kicks out none of them and says, from now on, only my recipe forever. What do you get? Not cuisine, just cafeteria slop on repeat. And that is China. Its real golden age wasn't after Qin unified the empire. It was before, when rival states clashed, argued, and out-innovated each other. I still remember the first time I dug into Chinese history in detail. Everyone talks about the great dynasties, the glory of unifying the China. But when I zoomed in, I realized something shocking. China's real golden age wasn't when it was united. It was when China was divided. Think about it. 10 rival kingdoms battling it out. Messy and brutal, sure. But that is when the sparks were flying. New ideas, new inventions, new philosophies. And then Qin dynasty showed up, slammed the doors shut, and said, from now on, only my way. And overnight, the laboratory of ideas turned into a prison of conformity. And you see the fallout centuries later when you compare two men, Zheng He and Columbus. Same century, same technology base. One had the biggest ships the world had ever seen. And then a single emperor pulled the plug. The other had a second-hand boat, got laughed out of multiple courts, and still sailed into history because Europe had competition. Here's the hard truth I came to. Geography stacked the deck. China's geography made unification almost inevitable. Europe's geography made fragmentation inevitable. And that one difference explains why Europe surged while China stagnated. Fragmentation means rivalry. Rivalry meant innovation. Unification meant one-man rule, and one veto at the top meant the whole civilization flatlined. China's real vitality peaked when it had many Chinas. After Qin, power concentrated, curiosity suffocated, and decline baked in. I'll never forget staring at a topographic map of Eurasia for the first time. Europe just looks like shattered glass. Mountains, rivers, peninsulas, natural borders everywhere. China, a wide open bowl with two superhighways in the form of Yellow and Yangtze rivers. What's the political result of that? Europe naturally splintered into many states, while China naturally pulled into one, and that matters. In Europe, fragmentation meant rulers constantly outbidding each other. Don't like my taxes? Try my neighbors. Don't like my censorship? Cross the border and publish there. In China, one emperor's no wasn't just local, it was basically universal. And that is why Europe's chaos became progress and China's order became stagnation. China's most creative era, 春秋战国, the spring and autumn and warring state periods. More than 2,000 years ago, 100 schools of thought, legalists, Confucians, Taoists, all arguing like it's Twitter spaces at 2 a.m. states competed to recruit talent and build canals. Brutal, yes, but intellectually electric. And then Qing unified it, standardized everything, okay, and standardized thought. 焚书坑儒, burn the books, bury the scholars, is more than just an infamous story. It is the logic of one-man rule. The state became one mind. Great if that one mind is brilliant forever. Spoiler, it never is. Now, the showcase. Zheng He versus Columbus. In 15th century, Ming Dynasty of China built super fleets. We're talking floating cities. They reached Southeast Asia, India, East Africa. And then the imperial court says, this is getting expensive and politically awkward. Let's cancel it. One imperial no ends a world historic capability. The shipyards are dismantled. Game over for Zheng He. Now, what about Columbus? He shops his peach around Europe like a desperate startup founder. Portugal says no, Italy says no, England shrugs, Spain says yes. And when Spain hesitates later, other states keep funding others, like Ferdinand Magellan. Why? Because Europe has redundant yes buttons. Moral of the story, in Europe, one refusal reroutes the river. In unified China, one refusal dams the river for everyone. Civilization is like a lab. The more experiments, the more breakthroughs. Fragmentation is like a portfolio of bets. In Europe, if a duke hates printing presses, a neighboring state loves them, and then suddenly knowledge is viral. In China, if the emperor fears the press doesn't move, it just dies. And it's not just about attack, it's also about institutions, commercial law, insurance, bankruptcy, stock companies. Europe iterates because rulers race to copy what works. China, under a single sovereign, you wait for the mood at the court. The IQ and approval of the emperor becomes your growth ceiling. Some people may argue, but centralization made China rich and early. True, at first, early agriculture and bureaucratic statecraft gave China a head start. But that is like being first to dial up internet and then refusing to adopt broadband. The Qing template, centralized power, standardized minds, became the default of Chinese history. Every dynasty that tried to loosen control eventually snapped it back. Result? A 2,000-year habit of political monoculture. Great for stability, but terrible for anti-fragility. But didn't unity stop the civil war? For stretches, yes. But you traded constant small fires for those rare mega fires. A fragmented system burns brush regularly. A unified system lets tinder pile up, and then you get a dynasty-ending revolution. Europe's wars were frequent and local. China's collapses were less frequent but civilizational. Now, let's crystallize it. Europe's hedge, many states, many patrons, many tries. One king's no is someone else's goal. China's veto, one emperor, one court, one try. If he's anxious, the nation stops breathing. That is why the compass, paper, and gunpowder, the so-called Chinese inventions, went exponential in Europe. Not because Europeans were much smarter, but because the ecosystem favored scaling. China had early sparks, but Europe had the oxygen. Now, what this means for today. Modern China still runs the Qin template. Centralized power, uniform ideology, one-man ceiling. The economic transformation was real, but built with top-down command. Now, when the system needs bottom-up innovation, entrepreneurs, dissent, messy debate, the habit of control kicks back in. And like mean officials dismantling shipyards, the current leadership dismantles its own dynamism, one purge at a time. So, did China peak 2,000 years ago? Intellectually and institutionally, the argument holds. The divided China, many states, many schools, many bats, was the most alive China. After unification, the curve bent downward into conformity. Great monuments, fewer breakthroughs. Great order, less resilience. If you want a civilization that lasts, don't build a throne. Build a marketplace of thrones. Make it easy to try, fail, and try again, maybe somewhere else. Zheng He had the ships the size of dreams, and one command sank them. Columbus had a used car and a bad pitch deck, and Europe found him a check. China thrived when it was many. It stalled when it became one. The tragedy of one-man rule isn't just bad rulers. It's that even good rulers can be anywhere, and bad decisions travel at the speed of empire. If this video reshapes how you see China's past and its future, hit subscribe and check out my video on why China's claim of 5,000 year civilization is just a lie. And I'll see you in the next one.